This is Transit 22.
What up, it's your boy 17.
Yo, what's up? I'm Z the Free.
What's good? I'm Entropy.
Yo, what up? I'm Yo J, and together we're whatever.
Yo, it's Young Papa Mito. When you're listening to HipHop Xertified.
HipHop Xertified.
HipHop Xertified.
HipHop Xertified.
You're watching HipHop Xertified.
What is good, HipHoppas? It is Estelle on Sound here with HipHop Xertified. Now, yes, we are back to doing old school album reviews. As you can see, this is the Biggie Ready to Die album review. This time it's a little bit different. We took to the streets to see what people thought about Biggie's Ready to Die and just getting some responses out of the people. After we have a discussion about the album, it was a very good discussion. I enjoyed the discussion a lot. I thought it turned out super well. So I hope you guys enjoy it and hope you guys stay tuned for the whole thing.
So, what do you think about Biggie's Ready to Die or some of Biggie's songs?
It's pretty lit. Yeah, I fuck with him.
Word.
Yeah.
Do you think Biggie's music is still relevant to today?
Yeah. I mean, everybody knows Biggie. I mean, it's kind of like you don't really listen to rap if you don't know Biggie has to it.
What do you think about Biggie's music?
I think he's like a really good lyricist. Like his music's really good. He speaks like really good music from the heart. I think majority of his music's actually like really good.
Word. And now, when did you first listen to Biggie Smalls?
I listened to Biggie when I was really young. A lot of my like older cousins and my older brother listened to it as well. So.
And do you think Biggie's music is still relevant today?
Yeah, I think he's a legend.
Ravi, yes. What do you think about Biggie's Ready to Die?
It's got some truth in it.
Well, what do you think about Biggie Smalls in general?
In general, I think he's like honestly like the rivalry that Tupac and Biggie had. I think it was unnecessary, and meaning like in general, like meaning it wasn't there. It was just made by the public, right?
Right.
That's what it was.
Right. Like
Yeah.
they hyped it up.
They hyped it up for no reason because they were buddies before. So.
Do you think Biggie is still relevant in today's music?
No. Like where hip hop was way back then and where it is now, it's changed a lot. Like people, like before when they used to rap or when they used to sing before, there was actually meaning, there's poetry in it, but now it's just unnecessary stuff. Like Gucci, Gucci, Gucci.
Gucci gang, Gucci
Yeah.
gang, Gucci gang.
Yeah. There's nothing there, so yeah. Rap music itself in general, it's not the same anymore.
Take a little bit of your time.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
Hopefully I could help.
What is good, HipHoppas? It is Estelle on Sound here with the HipHop Xertified YouTube channel. And today, obviously you guys can see the setup is a little bit different. The format's a little bit different. What we're bringing to you guys today is a classic review, this time on Biggie's Ready to Die. And I brought a few special guests with me today. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. So,
yes, I can go first. My name is Johnson. I'm not a rapper. I'm not a producer. I'm just purely a fan. So that's all it is.
And I'm Joe Cristoforo, and I'm just a hip hop head.
Word. I like it.
Up?
Stole your line, eh?
Yeah. The thing is, it used to be Hip Hop Heads.
Right.
It used to be Hip Hop Heads, but I changed it to Hip Hop Xertified. And then I guess the proper term for referring to someone who's a part of the culture is a hip-hoppa.
Hip-hoppa, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess that's what I am.
a hip-hoppa, yeah.
Oh,
Some
right.
hip-hoppas here. Anyway,
Damn.
so we'll get straight into it. I'll open up with a disclosure about this album. Because we're talking about Biggie's Ready to Die, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was not born in 1994. I wasn't around in 1994.
Same.
So I'm not going to act like I know everything about this album.
Right.
Or that I know the cultural and historic impact that it had at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to speak about this album from the perspective of what impact it had when it was out, but more from the perspective of what impact does it have today,
Right.
on people today. So just getting that out the way. So with that being said, we'll get straight into it. Just going into the album, what did you guys think about Biggie's Ready to Die? Did you guys where did you guys hear about Biggie's Ready to Die? Where did you hear about Biggie?
So I wasn't born back then either, right? But I lived in Brooklyn for 2 years. I was like 9 to 11, so I was fairly young, and I didn't know any English back then. So it was like, it's just impossible to live in Brooklyn without hearing about Biggie or listening to his music. It's just it's everywhere, right? So, yeah. I don't have like my first memory of listening to the album. Probably just listen to a couple singles here and there, but I remember being like grade 8 or grade 9 and going back to like kind of doing my research and kind of actually like listening to the old albums. And at the time it was kind of hard to appreciate. Like it's a hard sound to appreciate at first, but it grows on you. You know what I mean? It's my kind of sound that I like, right? Brooklyn style.
Like, and what do you mean by your kind of style? Like,
well, like modern music today is just like it's very like repetitive and catchy. You know what I mean? It's a very kind of repeated formula, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Especially like if you're at a club or you're partying, you kind of want that music. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's my style. It's intricate. It's, in my opinion, it's something that's aged well, right? And it's something that you can listen to that album like over and over again. You know, and you
right?
Get bored of it, right?
Facts. Yep.
Yeah.
So going into the album, Joe, what was your impressions of Biggie? Ready to Die? What did you hear about Biggie before you listened to the album? What was?
So, yeah, from my perspective, when I started listening to Biggie, he was already dead. I didn't grow up in the 80s or 90s, right? Because that's when hip hop, like when a lot of these rappers like Tupac, Biggie, Big L, all these guys like really started coming out in the early 90s, right? So it's kind of a posthumous perspective. And
right.
I started listening to Biggie when I was 16. And he has a very criminal element, kind of like an outlaw.
Yeah.
Sort of, not that I lived that life, but it's just with teenage angst, it's something that you can sort of relate to.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Right,
that's true.
So that's what spoke to me.
Okay, word. So, like Johnson was saying, and like you said too, I'll speak to Johnson's point that he brought up. Like, it's hard to grow up. I'd say even just growing up in the world at this point, it's hard to grow up and not hear about Biggie.
Yeah.
And especially being a fan of hip hop.
He's a cultural thing, right? He's a cultural icon at this point, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. He's bigger than life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's hard to grow up and not hear about Biggie.
Right.
So I feel like growing up, I always knew who Biggie was.
Yeah. Even if you weren't necessarily like the most educated on his music, right? You just knew who the man was.
Before I even listened to him, it's a name that you heard along with Kurt Cobain and other artists.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I want to say it was around the 5th or 6th grade. I remember quoting lyrics from Juicy.
Yeah.
For a project we were doing. And I was like, I remember taking the line I'll touch on it a little bit later, but I remember speaking about those lyrics in the 5th or 6th grade. So I knew about this guy like young.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until, like you said, around 16, around when I got into high school.
I feel like that's when you start appreciating music a little bit more. Like when you get to like 15, 16, and then you kind of like, your music taste is kind of settled at that point. Yeah.
You think so?
That's what I feel.
Okay.
That's my experience. I don't know. I think everybody's a little bit different.
I agree that you definitely start to appreciate things around 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So I think we're old enough to start understanding what's going on with the music.
Yeah.
So it was around 15 or 16. I remember downloading this thing onto this little pink iPod that I had.
Yeah.
This little pink iPod that I had. I remember doing, Connor?
Yeah.
Do you know? I don't know if you know Connor. It's my homie Connor. He asked me if I could do his comm online. The comm that you have to do for at school or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, let me do this. And then he's gonna give me his iPod because I wanted that 16 gig iPod. I was like, man, I want to put this music.
Back in the day, I was like, man, you got all the music.
Exactly, 16 gigs. I'm like, yo, I'm lit.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let me get this iPod. I remember getting the iPod. It was a little pink iPod, and downloading Biggie's "Ready to Die" off of some website.
Probably LimeWire or something.
LimeWire or some like blog spot. You know what I mean? Any of you guys who like download music, you guys know. Yeah. I remember downloading the album onto the iPod and just listening to it during class. The teacher was trying to teach me some shit, and I'm just like, nah, I'm listening to Biggie. He's teaching me all I need to know at this point. So yeah, I remember just the memories I have with this, and even
that's the thing about like, you know, classic songs. Like, they bring up like those memories. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get that from like listening to like Travis Scott or Lil Pump. You don't get those memories that you had back when you were a fan.
I disagree.
Yeah.
And I think people today are growing up having those memories.
I think people today for sure 100%, but like us, you know what I mean? Like a little bit older, like early 20s kind of people. Like, that's the kind of music that brings up memories, right?
See, with Biggie Smalls, it's high 90s nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Nostalgia, that's
okay, so
I feel like a lot of people, when they look back at Biggie, you know, with all these new artists coming out, they look back at Biggie and they're like, okay, that's full of 90s nostalgia. That is the 90s, and he's become something of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like there's a lot of nostalgic value to Biggie.
Like, if I go to the club, they'll play a song from Biggie, and it'll be kind of a throwback vibe.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
People aren't like bumping out. People are like
you're just kind of appreciating.
Well, I mean,
the throwback.
Bumping out in the sense where it's like a modern tune that, you know, they're just gonna dance out to. But like with Biggie, it's like, holy crap! Like, this is Biggie. Like, this is like throwback to the '90s. We're partying in the '90s. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Okay, so
there's a hype to it, but it's just a very old kind of hype, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, word, I feel you. And the last thing I wanted to say, definitely like a good memory, because like, I don't know, did you guys grow up listening to like Biggie like in high school? Like, were you guys bumping it like that, or were you guys just casually listening to it? Or
I was bumping him all the way, bumping to him. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
I was.
music.
For me, it was I would have phases, right, where like I'd go like a couple months where I'd just go hard on Biggie, and then I'd put that away and listen to something else, and I'd come back to it. But it was always something that always in my rotation. Yeah.
Word, I agree. Yeah, like I just remember having this shit bumping in the car and just knowing all the lyrics to it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something though. I think I told you guys earlier about how you don't criticize Biggie, right? At least back then. I was wrong. I remember when I was in foods class, I was playing some Biggie, and these guys were making fun of me for listening to him because they said a lot of his music is like really dark and depressing, so they kind of, you know, played on that he's emo or something, which is obviously not true. But, you know, I feel like a lot of his music was really like, I know it's an overused word, but very real.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very criminal element, very authentic.
Yeah. Absolutely. And
you roll high, you have high emotions, high feelings, you know, high everything.
There's something very real about Biggie. Like, he's not really trying to hide or kind of his the way he picks his words and his songs are very, like, they have a purpose. Like, every word has a purpose to paint a picture. Yeah.
He always packs a punch, you know, with his words. He always emphasizes, like, here, I can't even provide an example right now just because my mind's scrambling around, but like, it's always like aggressive, like, you know, very like, he always packs a punch with his rhymes, you know? It's just, no, definitely Biggie. A lot of his music has a darker tone, I find, and it's like, that's where his aggression, that's where he really packs the punch, like a really aggressive, like raw, like getting right into it.
Right, and I think one thing that's underappreciated, like listening to this today, one thing that I think is underappreciated is Biggie's production.
Yeah, especially for his time, like,
absolutely,
it was ridiculous. Yeah.
Right, and I think
I agree.
Like I feel like people definitely give credit to Juicy, and people give credit to Big Papa. Those are kind of like the
Hypnotize and
right. Those kind of like timeless funk sounds that we hear in the album.
Right.
But I think for the most part, even if you just digest the whole album, it's
solid from beginning to end. Yeah.
Right, and it's what you said earlier. It's boom bap, like at its finest.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear some boom bap, go to this album because there's so much of it, and at such a high degree of it.
Yeah.
And then obviously like Easy Mo B was the one who did a lot of the production on the album. a lot of the first leg of the album from tracks 1 to 6. Easy Mo B did the beats to it.
Yeah.
And then the Blues Brothers and Chucky Thompson, they were doing more of the women-centered tracks.
Yeah.
Kind of like Big Pop or One More Chance. So, I mean, I definitely got to give credit to Easy Mo B on the beats for this, because he killed the production on here. So a huge shout outs to Easy Mo B. And then one thing that I wanted to kind of add on to what you guys were saying about just the raw, vivid darkness of Biggie's content. There's two sides of it, in my opinion. The one side of it, I feel like, and I remember listening to this, it was the middle of winter. I was feeling like shit. And I was just like, man, I'm not feeling good. But let me put on some 90s music. I haven't listened to it in a while. Let me put some 90s music.
That's one thing, though. If you're feeling kind of shitty and you want to listen to some Biggie, you're probably just going to, like, start feeling shittier because it's just depressing music.
Or better.
Or better.
That's the opposite effect sometimes, you know?
Sometimes it does, yeah, that's true.
Right. And, well, the thing was, I feel like I was able to tune into where Biggie was.
Right.
Because of where I was mentally. And it's weird.
You
sometimes,
can relate to it.
Absolutely. But it was on a different level. And I remember listening to it from the lens of like a review. I was like, let me listen to it from a lens of a review, because I was doing reviews. Obviously, you guys know I do reviews often. So I was like, let me listen to it through the lens of a...
Man's been doing reviews for a long time.
Been doing reviews for a minute.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me listen to it through the lens of a review. And I was like, man, this is so grimy. This is so gutter. This is so raw, vivid. It's so uncut.
But there's it's like, it's grimy and it's raw, but it's also like high class. You know what I mean? It's not like grimy in the sense where like there's definitely poetry there. You know what I mean? It's grimy, but it's poetic, right?
There is a poetic element to it.
To his style. Yeah.
I agree, and I think if it was just like straight gutter, like without any,
it would sound different. It wouldn't be quite Biggie.
I agree, and one thing that I gotta say is like, it's just so. It's from the perspective of someone who just doesn't give a fuck.
Right, right. Yeah.
Like listening to, if you listen to "Give Me the Loot," we were just watching a video of the guy shooting.
Right, and then New Zealand tragedy. Yeah, and we were watching the video where he comes out and starts shooting people. It's
right, and it's super tragic. But I gotta say, like, this album gives me that first person perspective of somebody not giving a fuck.
Right.
And just coming in, because he opens up the second, the third track.
Yeah.
Give me the loot.
Give me the loot.
You know what I mean? I'm robbing you.
Yeah.
Shooting mother. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way that it goes. So he's very uncut in the way he delivers his music. He's not unapologetic. And I think it's harder than 90% of what's coming out today.
I think so too.
He's very bold and ambitious, and you know, sometimes we need that. You know what? Like someone that doesn't apologize, that someone he's telling a story, he's a storyteller essentially, right?
Yeah.
And what I found absolutely phenomenal about this album is that it's like, if you were to put me in a movie theater and blindfolded me, like that's pretty much listening to this album. I just felt like I was in a movie, I was in a story.
Yeah.
That's a really
like
good
you're watching
insight.
like a 90s gangster movie, yeah, like Boys in the Hood or something.
Yeah, exactly. It does definitely give you that feel. Yeah. And one thing that I wanted to talk about, you brought up the point where some guys were criticizing his content because it's very dark, it's very grim.
Right.
And I think they have a solid point, because I was talking to my friend Micah, and we were having a discussion about Biggie's content. And I think, as someone who's in the hip hop community, and I feel like someone who's just an adult, I think we can.
Right.
I think we have to start taking a bit of responsibility for some of the lyrics that are on this album and the praise that we give this album.
What do you mean?
What I mean by that is a lot of this is talking about violence,
Right.
drug use.
But as an adult, that's things that are very real.
That's what he grew up with. You see, this is his story. That's his perspective, right? I didn't grow up with that. So all I can tell is my story. So my story isn't really that dark. But with him, he grew up right in, I think it was in Bed-Stuy. It was like right in pretty much the ghetto in the projects, and you know, he saw that, he grew up with it, and that's who he is. That's what made him who he is, who he was.
Definitely.
Right, so he's just telling it honestly.
Yeah, when I was in Brooklyn, it was nowhere near as bad as it was in the 90s, but it was still like, it's still a place where you wouldn't want to be there if you had a choice. You know what I mean? It's still Brooklyn, New York, like, you know? So it's definitely like, it's real, you know what I mean? What he's saying, like, there's and I feel like, you know, back then, you know, artists or rappers could get away with saying like a lot more vivid stuff than they could nowadays. Like, I feel like if somebody said some real vivid stuff, like, you'd get criticized for that. You know?
There's lots of censorship.
Yeah.
I think Biggie came from a place where he didn't care about censorship.
Yeah.
He didn't care
that
about...
wasn't even a thought in his mind.
That's the 90s right there for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what's most interesting is that you get people from all kinds of places. You know, you get like rich people, you get poor people, you get middle class people, you get people from different cultures, all listening to Biggie.
That's the beauty of music, right? Mm-hmm. Is that it can affect everybody, right?
Right. And I mean, I agree with you guys that obviously this is his reality, this is his story.
Right. But we can relate to it.
Even
though we didn't live the thug life, or at least I didn't.
Yes, but at the same time, what I'm trying to point out too is just the responsibility for some of the lyrics on this, and what it's doing to some of the, like, what influence it's having on some people growing up.
Right. Like, yeah.
And the reason I say
like
this,
if it's a positive thing or not to be listening to when you're that age.
And I wouldn't necessarily criticize it so much. But the fact that it's out for sale and somebody's asking for your money for it, you know what I mean? They want you to see that there's a certain value in this kind of content.
Right.
They want you to spend your hard-earned money and get something out of this. So if I'm going to spend my hard-earned money, or if I'm going to pay for a streaming service, and obviously now everything's streamed, so it's a little easier. But I'm saying for someone to put this out and profit off of it, you have to also question, well, okay, what am I being told?
Right. Yeah, that's very smart.
Right?
You gotta question everything.
Oh, sorry.
That's what I think. I think I question what I'm being told and what this is promoting, because this is a degree of promoting. If I'm putting it out for the world to hear, I am promoting it to a certain degree.
I don't think Biggie ever promoted violence in that sense. I think he was like what Joe was saying. He was telling a story, like. Just because you're telling something doesn't mean you're promoting something, right? But there's a very slippery slope there, right? Between like, okay, this is the story I'm telling, and this is kind of like, you know, what you get out of the story might influence you, right?
I agree with the fact that maybe there's a thin line as far as between promoting and just sharing your life story.
Right.
So, and I agree with you that I don't think Biggie was trying to promote the kind of the street life that he was talking about. I think he was just trying to present it as, this is just what I'm living.
This is just what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And for that I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
But there is still a sense of me that consciously is like, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure I remember listening to, I think it was Warning, and me just imagining robbing someone.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm literally playing this out of my head, like I'm gonna go and rob somebody because it's just played out. Or listening to Give Me the Loot and be like, okay, like I'm gonna go rob.
So this is in your mind when you're young, you're thinking like, you know, how to make that quick buck or whatever, and
right. And you start kind of getting influenced by this music. I know I was definitely hugely influenced by hip hop.
100%.
Absolutely. And I would follow and look up to some of the guys. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe that's a lack of parenting. That could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm not going to say that my mom did a bad job of raising me. I'm not going to say that at all.
Just exposing.
No, I know. Shout out to mom. Shout out to my mom.
Shout out to mom.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like obviously, I didn't have a father growing up.
Yeah.
Especially during my like teenage years.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people I'm looking up to is these rappers.
Right. These rappers kind of fill that gap of like your strong male role model that you need at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm looking up to them like, man, these guys are like legends. Everyone's telling me they're the guy to be.
Yeah.
Right? This is going up. This is what I'm hearing about Biggie. So I'm like, man, what do I got to do to get there?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm hearing, okay, well, I gotta go rob somebody.
You gotta get the loot.
Exactly, I gotta go get the loot.
See, for me, it wasn't like that at all. Like, we understand things, we perceive things differently. For me, it was just, I was looking at an entirely different person. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I related to him, but I knew I wasn't him in a way, that it couldn't be him. And I just thought, you know what? He's just a guy telling his story. You know what I mean?
You can appreciate that.
And exactly, I can appreciate that. And I could just, it goes both ways. It can influence you in negative ways, but it can also influence you in positive ways. Like living that lifestyle. It's like his whole story. Like, I mean, this is just one album, but eventually, you know, Biggie did die. And it just makes me think, living that lifestyle. Like, think about his songs, like a lot of the suicidal themes in it, and like the dark themes. Like, it's not all glamorous, is what Biggie's trying to show us.
Yeah.
Right? You know, give me the loot. Well, he's got to do that because that's the life he's living. Right. So that's just my perspective. So it also gives me some sort of gratitude, like some, you know, growing up in the suburbs, some suburban gratitude. You know what I mean? And I think Biggie's gift is for me to be able to understand.
Yeah, and being somebody who came from you know, from Brooklyn and then coming here, it's like a totally different environment. I can appreciate like the fact that I am here. You know what I mean? Because like, been there, done that. It wasn't that fun, but now I'm here. You get that appreciation for comfort almost.
Absolutely, I agree, and I think Biggie does it. I guess I don't want to reiterate the same point, but Biggie wasn't glamorizing it the way that I think a lot of rappers do today.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where it's like, yo, I'm living the street life and everything's good.
But the thing is, back then, like, he had to live that life. But nowadays, it's like they don't. You know, it's like a choice. Like, I choose to be like this for the sake of being like this.
I feel like in some areas, people still have to live that street life.
In some areas, 100%. I agree.
See, I feel like with Biggie, it's like that's his, so what I said about that's his environment, that's how he grew up. It's kind of like self-ownership. I just think, okay, no, this is the thug life. This is it.
Yeah.
This is my life on this planet. Like,
That's who he is,
fuck it. I'm just going to own it. I'm going to take it in. This is who I am. Like, I'm going to embrace the shit. I feel like that's sort of a perspective he's coming from.
Yeah.
And eventually he just balled out and was successful with it.
Yeah.
And ironically, met his demise by it too.
Yeah.
Right. Live by the sword, die by the sword.
Exactly.
Right. That's true. One thing that I do want to talk about, I say that a lot. What Biggie's ability, he was 21 when he made this album.
He was ridiculously young.
Think about it, at 21, I'm about to turn 21. Yeah. I don't know anybody at this age. I mean, maybe
with that kind of direction and purpose and drive, 100%.
And just ability, like pure skill and ability.
Yeah.
Like for him this album is riddled with storytelling. The amount of stories that's on this album.
Yeah.
And for somebody at that age to be able to tell a story from beginning to end, I think is incredible. The only person I can compare it to would be like Nas. Nas was 16 when he came out with Illmatic. So I don't know what they were feeding the guys in the 90s.
It's just like it's a weird combination of talent and that need to get out of that situation. You know what I mean? Like when you're forced to do something, you do it so well. You know?
That's a good point.
Like when you're comfortable, you just get lazy and complacent. You know? So but he was 21. It's ridiculous how good the album is.
Right. And then the other thing I think is extremely underappreciated is, maybe not, but the sequencing. Like you guys said, listening to this, it feels like you're watching a movie, right?
Right.
And I feel like every track was placed carefully after another.
Yeah, the order is important. Yeah.
It's super important. Even the way it transitions from Warning, he's talking about somebody who's coming to rob him,
right?
And he's gonna shoot him, right? You hear at the end, Diddy's like, "Oh, you got a red dot on your head."
Yeah.
Oh, you got a red dot on your head too, right? And then it leads right into Ready to Die, where he's like, "As I grab the Glock, fill it to your headpiece." Like that's perfectly placed from one to another.
Yeah.
The classic Biggie flow. He knew how to construct things perfectly.
Yeah.
And I think Diddy had a huge part in that too, like Puff Daddy, because he had exactly produced this album. I think he had a huge part in sequencing this album. I don't know who did the sequencing on this album. Usually executive producers have a big
say
role in that.
Yeah.
but the sequencing, like it plays out like a perfect movie.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that I got to give credit to. It's not super tightly knit like a concept album,
right?
Like I would say like a To Pimp a Butterfly or something.
Yes,
like that.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Right, where it's like literally each song has a.
It's like a snowball effect. You just keep rolling.
Exactly. It's not so tight knit in that manner, but it's still like it has a concept and it flows with the concept easily.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll get into the tracks.
All right. So the skits on an album. When you first hear the album, the skits are, in my opinion, they're super important, right? Because the artist put it there for a reason. Like you gotta have the skits. But when you've listened to an album, like more than 3-4 times, I just skip them. I just skip the skits, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm 100%
You know what I mean? Like that's just me though, right? Like the first couple of times you want to kind of follow what's going on with the direction of the album, but after a couple of listens, you want to get to the meat of the album.
Dog, I agree with you with the majority of the skits on here,
right?
But the first
the
skit,
intro
is
pretty
so
fire.
hard.
The intro's pretty fire.
Like it's so hard, honestly. Like you hear it coming in. It sounds all dark. You hear the strings and then and then
the hospital sounds.
All right, the hospital. You hear the heartbeat. Dun, dun,
that does paint like a real picture though. When you start hearing the hospital sounds and then you start hearing like push. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And then it's got Curtis Mayfield playing in the back, right? So it's you can kind of tell the time of when this was made, right?
Yeah. It's definitely not like a modern hospital. It's like a little bit retro, yeah.
All right, and then it goes into I think it goes into '84, so when he's a little bit older, and then you hear I think Cold Chillin'. Yeah. That's the song that's playing in the background. I forget the lyrics, but I think it's playing Cold Chillin' in the back, right? Yeah. And you hear him like about to rob a train.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how did we get from like
from the baby being born to?
Oh, hold up! In between that, he was like, yo, I gotta put this kid in a group home because I don't know what to do with him. Or
right, they have that argument between the two parents, right? And I think that bit right there really sums up like what his feelings on his childhood were. You know what I mean? Where it's just like he's just kind of not wanted anywhere. Yeah.
That's a really good insight. That's a good point. Yeah. And then right at the end where it's Doggy Style playing in the back.
Yeah.
And then you can hear him like he's getting out of jail.
Yeah.
Because I think he did a bid for selling drugs.
Right.
I think Biggie, he went to North Carolina, he sold some drugs. I think he ended up getting arrested or something like that. I think so. And you can hear him just getting out of jail.
The one thing is the ending to that track is so perfect. Where he's just like, the cop is like, oh, you'll be back. And he's just like, no, I got big plans. And then that laugh at the end, it's like perfect. Literally perfect, yeah.
And then it goes into Things Done Changed.
Yeah.
Things Done Changed. And one thing I want to say, hold up, about the first track. I think it's a perfect summation of this entire album. There's going to be samples. There's going to be storytelling. Yeah. And it's going to be raw. Yeah. Straight, vivid, raw, uncut. So I think we get a very good idea of what this album's going to be like.
Right off the bat. It really like opens it up. Then we get into Things Done Changed. Things Done Changed. Biggie's talking about, obviously things have changed since he was growing up. Yeah. So remember back in the days when had corn braids or you know what I mean? Yeah. And Scully shades, like, and he's telling the story of how it was growing up, but now obviously things have turned really violent as he's gotten older. Yeah, it went from like innocent, kind of hanging around with the homies to, now it's you're a man and you got to do stuff.
And it really paints the whole realistic picture of like things have changed even in our lives, right? Yeah. Things get a bit more serious as you become an adult. So it's something that you can. That's what I like about Biggie. Like very different content, but in terms of relating, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Word. And I think with this track, it leads into the next track because he's so raw about it. He's like, getting Smoke G, believe me, right? Yeah. And then he goes in and talks about how how motherfuckers are robbing you and the parents are scared of us now.
Yeah.
They even fucking scared of us.
Yeah.
Right? So they calling the city for help because they can't maintain. Man, things done changed.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, man, everything's messed up right now. So and then it leads perfectly into the third track, Give Me the Loot.
Give Me the Loot. Give Me the Loot's a banger. That's a banger. Yeah.
It almost feels like you're on a ride along. Hey?
Yeah.
You know?
Like you're in the back seat. You're in the car.
Yeah.
Just like, oh shit, I'm doing this. And I just like the whole. It's like, okay, so. Yeah, a little story time here. So I used to like smoke weed, and you know, I can say that on your channel.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
so
totally.
I live like I messed around with like weed and other things a bit, and you know, it's always the anticipation about a cop right there, always looking at us, and
this
just
was
like
back when it wasn't like sold at every corner. Yeah.
Yeah. So
right.
like,
exactly. Before it was legalized, because we're in Canada. If you guys don't know.
So that's like back when it was sketchy, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But it's just like seeing the cop and like, oh, he's looking at us. It's like, just act cool, fool. You know, like.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
you know what I
he ain't
mean?
gonna roll up. All he wants is fucking donuts. So why the fuck you keep? Yo, I know all the lyrics to that track.
Yeah.
That is one track that we bumped in the whip so hard, especially in high school.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I remember we would play the different parts and everything. Like it was, oh man, the memories of this track.
And it's a good song that you can like recite with like a buddy. It's like as if you
Yeah.
two are committing the heist, you know?
Yeah,
As if you two are doing it.
It's also a good like song to work out to. You know what I mean? It just like gives you that motivation. You know what I mean?
Like, gets us going,
I'm
man.
coming for the loot.
Yeah. You get the gains.
Go to work with that shit. Like, give me the loot. Like, I'm ready to get the loot. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I think it was super innovative how he did because the two voices is him. I don't know if you guys know.
Yeah, the two voices are him, and he was like one of the first people to do that successfully. Because I know Kendrick uses it now, where he changes his voice to tell a story, portray different characters, but like he made it work really well. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think Biggie probably
fucking right.
Kendrick probably takes huge influence from that.
You can hear it for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you said, he was one of the first people to really successfully do that. I don't know how many 90s people that were doing different voices and telling the story through it, like playing two different perspectives.
People at the same time, yeah.
That was so innovative for the time.
Doesn't Eminem really do that? Like he emphasizes a lot on that.
But Eminem came out after. He came out 99.
Yeah.
And Eminem's credited Biggie for a lot of inspiration, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. He was on the track with Biggie. What is it? Dead Wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they definitely had a relationship back then. I don't know what the relationship was, but they definitely knew about each other. And I think Eminem was back in New Jersey around that time. He was taking trips to New Jersey. So they probably ran into similar circles because he was also with Naughty by Nature around that time and stuff like that. So he probably...
Yeah.
They probably ran into each other around that time.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's all a dynamic of different like characters' voices. Like it's just one character really, like one person, you know.
Yeah.
And I have to say I do not support the message on this track. I know I sound like an old man, but I'm just being honest. I just have to be. There's a responsibility. Right? Because it is talking about going and robbing somebody.
This is one of those songs where it kind of like it leans more towards like that promoting aspect of like, you know, this is how you get the loot.
Bro, he basically broke it down for you. You know what I mean?
He basically broke it down for you. That's right.
So. Yeah, anyway, we'll get into the fourth track, Machine Gun Funk.
Machine Gun Funk is good. I wouldn't say it's like a banger, but it's definitely up there. Machine Gun Funk. It's definitely... I know it's a lot of people's like one of their favorite Biggie songs.
Dog, I love Machine Gun Funk.
I love Machine Gun Funk, but there's just like... There's certain tracks that you hear them and they're like, this is good. And then you listen to another track in the album, like, nah, that just topped that. You know what I mean? That's how I feel. Yeah, but it's definitely up there. Machine Gun Funk, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, and the instrumental by Easy Mo B.
Yeah, very nice. The instrumental is so nice.
Love the instrumental. You hear these hard slapping drums.
Yeah.
And the snare,
I like drums in hip hop. You know, we don't get to hear that nowadays. The drums,
like
man,
some hard drums. Yeah,
bring them back.
Yeah, and it has a perfect swing for Biggie too. If you notice the track, if you listen to it, it has a really nice swing. Mm-hmm. And Biggie, he's known for writing swing. So you can notice it's not like super tight knit when he flows. Yeah. It kind of swings
Goes
from
back and forth,
from
yeah.
line to line to line, and
Yeah.
and Easy Mo B laid the perfect bed for him to do that.
Yeah.
So that one of my favorite instrumentals, and
Definitely one of the cleanest songs on the album. One of the
Yes.
cleanest, yeah.
yes,
Machine Gun Funk, yeah. Very, very good.
and I remember when I first heard the track, I remember hearing the original. Because the original track has a sample in it. If you guys don't know, there was a sample that's taken out of the track.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was the original track. Whatever you hear today, it's without the sample. But the original track had a sample on the hook. And I remember listening to the original song with the original sample. And I was like, it changes the total dynamic of it. Because when you hear it without it, it's like, it sounds weird.
Yeah. One thing about Machine Gun Funk, it's like, he really tells you like how important hip hop is to him. You know, like I live by the funk, I die by the funk.
Yeah.
It's like to him, it's like that's everything to him. You know, is the funk. You know, it's like what keeps him going is like the music, right? So like that I can appreciate.
Right, and it shows a lot of maturity.
Yeah.
Because he's like, he said, come on the Ave now, I'm real hard to find now.
Yeah.
Come on the Ave, I'm real hard to find now because I'm knee deep in the beats.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so he's saying I'm making that transition from the street life onto
He's basically
the music.
He's like, I don't have time to mess around. I'm deep in my craft. You know what I mean? I'm perfecting my craft.
Exactly,
Right.
and I respect this message a lot more. Like you can hear the maturity. It's like yes, this is what I'm trying to hear.
It's that contrast, right? You go from something like "Give Me the Loot" to Machine Gun Funk, and it sounds like the sound is familiar, right? But like the messages are just completely different.
Right. And I guess we'll get into a warning.
I like Warning a lot. I like Warning a lot.
What did you think about Warning?
Warning. You guys go. I like listening, man. When I
Well,
feel something, I'm gonna just give it all out.
Yeah.
Okay, all good. Well, I remember this is easily one of my favorite tracks on the album.
Yeah.
And I remember first listening to this and I was like, I have to know the lyrics for this. Because I was like, this is so classic. You can just hear it. The beeper going off, the beep, beep. Who the fuck is this? Paging me at 5:46 in the morning. Crack of dawning. Now I'm yawning. Crack the code out my eye. See who's this paging me and why.
Yeah.
Love it.
Very, very, very good. Like, it's got like that kind of lazy kind of rapping style. Like, I love that style. It's got that lazy rap. You can just like...
Right, it's that swing.
Yeah, you could be doing anything and bump to that.
It's very like at home feel. It's kind of like you're...
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. It's like you're really there.
Yeah.
You know, you're feeling like the pager, you know.
Right, like he creates that whole kind of setting for you.
Right.
Yeah,
it's like an early morning kind of deal. You're just relaxed. You got nothing to do that day. You're just thinking, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way that he just vividly describes retaliation on the second verse.
Yeah.
Man, it's just like you can just really get into it. Like Biggie was really with the shit.
Like he was not playing. He was
Absolutely not.
He was coming at everybody's neck.
No, he's dead serious.
And then I think that the beat is simple enough for Biggie to get his message across.
Yeah, I think it was one of those songs where it's more dependent on what he's saying. Like, you're not really supposed to be kind of like being focused on the beat so much. You're just supposed to just be like, okay, like sit down and listen. Listen to the man speak, you know?
Right.
He's trying to warn you, you know? You gotta listen.
I like that. Word. And then getting into Ready to Die, which again, I think the transition from each track is perfect. Because it ends with obviously Biggie shooting at the people who are coming to rob him, right?
Right.
And
well, he's got to he had to follow that up, right? Like he had to give you that warning, and then if you don't take that warning, he's letting you know, like he's ready to die, right? Like
exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So you picked that up too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, word. I thought I was the only one. Okay.
Right.
No. So yeah, and I mean, I think the one thing about this instrumental, it's totally layered. Mm-hmm. Like you hear the wah-wahs with the guitar in the back, the wah-wah-wah.
Yeah.
Right? And then you hear the sample playing in the back too.
I miss the guitars too, bringing guitars back to hip-hop, right?
Right. And I think the perspective of somebody who's just suicidal, homicidal.
Yeah, like they just do not care.
it was one of the lower points on the album.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? You can see he's screaming, "I'm ready to die," right?
Right.
Like telling you, like, bro, I'm ready to go out.
Yeah.
And again, it's just one of those lower moments.
There's
on
a
the
lot
album.
of like this album especially. There's a lot of talk about that, like about death and about how he's gonna die, and you know, even live by the funk, die by the funk. You know what I mean? Like, just that's a constant theme that runs through the song. You know what I mean?
Or this whole album.
The whole album, yeah. The whole album.
He's got nothing to lose whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, it's very real. Very.
And I think he ended up losing, I'm sorry.
And this is somebody that's 21, and they're experiencing success for the first time. So to me, that's interesting. You know what I mean? Somebody who, for the first time in their life, have made something like this, and they still have that feeling of like, I made this, I got it out of the gutter, but like, I still don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? So that's an interesting perspective.
And like you said, like he was just talking about death on this whole album, right?
Yeah.
And I think he ended up predicting his own death.
Oh, for sure.
With this album.
Yeah.
So it's a little unfortunate, right? You can hear it.
It's unfortunate. It's a little bit unsettling too, right? Because you know, when I was listening to, he was already dead, but I can't imagine what it was like, you know, listening to that when he was alive, and then hearing the news that he died. It's like that's a little bit unnerving. Yeah.
It's like he knew this was all gonna unfold.
Yeah. It's like he read the last chapter of his life before it happened, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's it. I guess.
But there's beauty to that, you know.
You think there's a poetic?
I think there's a poetic justice to that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Word. And then we'll get into the fuck me interlude.
Again, like, first time you're hearing it, it's part of the album, right? But as soon as I get to it, I'm like, skip. You know, I'm not trying to hear all that. Like, it was funny the first time. It's like Dr. Dre did a similar thing, right? On his 2001 album.
Absolutely.
He did a similar thing where he's just like, where he has that skit and he's just like, and I'm just like, all right, it was although the beat to that skit, like if you listen without like the actual acting, just listen to the background beat, that beat is fire. I don't know if you've listened to that.
Oh, I think it's like some 90s R&B in the back or whatever, right? I don't know.
That beat is fire. I like that beat. But like in terms of the skit, I hear it and I'm like, oh shit. Past that. Especially if there's somebody in the car, like that can get awkward. I'm not trying to...
See, for me, I was...
exactly.
I was listening to it in my room, right? When I was 16. And I fell asleep. And I just woke up to hearing that. And I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, what am I listening to? This is crazy.
I still don't understand, and I gotta reiterate what Mike on Dead and Hip Hop said. I still don't understand why guys do this on albums. I didn't like it when they did it on 2001 on The Chronic.
Yeah.
I don't like it when they do it on here. I get it. There's a certain degree of comedic value to it.
I think to me it's just because if you're always listening to like hard lyrical music and there's no pauses in between, then you kind of like words just come like one ear out the other kind of thing. You know what I mean? So you need like pauses like that. But like first time listening to it, like it's funny. It's pretty funny. But like after that, it's
like how many times am I going to listen to somebody or Biggie fuck this chick? But I was listening to it on my way here, and I was like, this shit is pretty hilarious.
Yeah,
it's fuck me, you Oreo cookie eating. Like it's just hilarious. It's so funny. But I'm not gonna listen to it again. Like I'm a casual listening. I'm probably gonna skip it, like you said.
Yeah. You need that lightheartedness or that humor, I guess, because that's how I interpret it. Yeah. Like with such a dark album.
Agreed. Yeah. And then it gets into one of my favorite tracks, "The What," with Method Man.
Yes, Method Man, to me, I don't know if you would say he's underrated, but like he's so good. Like his flow, it's one of those flows that like probably if you're a younger person you probably won't appreciate as much. You know what I mean? But for me, like Wu-Tang, Method Man, like that kind of sound, I love that sound. Like, so when I was first time I'm listening to it, I knew who Method Man was. And I was like, oh, he's in this album? Like, it was pretty hype. The What, that's one of my favorite songs on the track as well.
Word, agreed. Yeah. And again,
and he mixes well with Biggie. Like, they go back and forth pretty good. Like, the chemistry's not perfect, but it's pretty good.
I agree. Like it kind of sounds like some battle rap shit.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you go, I go.
Like
you
like
go,
a crossover episode or something. Yeah.
yeah. Word. And the beat again. The beat I have to emphasize just because I think it's a lot of people don't give credit for the beats, but
right.
like the warped sound, the wong, wong, wong,
yeah,
like that was really different for that time for someone to warp the background sound to a beat. Like I think that was super innovative for Easy Mo B to do that.
Right.
So and
that's probably influenced so many people, right? Like it's ridiculous.
Word. And then we get to Juicy.
Classic.
One of the best.
I think if you had to sit somebody down and you only had 10 songs, like 10 hip hop songs to show them or to make them listen to, I think Juicy's probably in there.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
It's a very strange song to be put in this album because it's such a positive song.
Yeah.
You know? And it's about like conquering, about succeeding, about proving people wrong. I just found that very interesting.
Yeah, it is definitely about overcoming odds. Yeah.
Like, I'm sure we all want to get back at like our teachers or something, right?
Or somebody, yeah.
Right, and that's definitely what this track represents. Yeah. I agree. And I think it's needed. Like, you need this kind of hope. It's like the one light of hope amongst all this darkness. Right?
You think of Biggie, you think of this song. That's just me.
I think when you start thinking about Biggie, like the first thing that comes to mind is Juicy. It's just, but it's also like it's been played so much and everywhere.
It's kind of so it's overrated, but in not a bad way. Exactly, like not entirely bad. Like it's just okay. Yeah, it's Juicy, but it's still a good song.
Yeah, it's one of those hip hop songs where you don't have to be a hip hop head to appreciate
to enjoy it.
Yeah,
and a lot of the reason to that is because of the sound.
Yeah,
this was the sound that Puff was really pushing Biggie to go towards because a lot of his earlier stuff, like this was made between 93 and 94, and a lot of his earlier stuff was very gutter, very hardcore.
Right.
When Puff came in, he was like, man, let's make some of these tracks for the mainstream.
Right. Which I can appreciate. Like, he definitely did a good job on Juicy. I just feel like it's good in doses. You know what I mean? I feel like if every song was like Juicy on the track, then it just wouldn't have to me, it wouldn't be as relatable. Because you can't relate to somebody who's like always succeeding all the time. Because that's not real life.
Okay.
Somebody who's always perfect. Like you don't want to hear that. Like
it's the balance that you need.
It's the balance, right? And I think it's definitely like because it's like one of the few like positive songs on the album. Like it stands out, like
amongst the rest of it.
Amongst of the rest, right?
Right. And a lot of it is because of the sound too. Like the content obviously is huge, but the sound of it is
different.
Is huge because of it.
Yeah.
So. And obviously the M2 made Juicy Fruit sample, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
And apparently Pete Rock, you know who Pete Rock is?
Pete Rock, yeah.
Apparently he did the original beat for this.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that, I'm learning.
And apparently like he just wants credit. So apparently he made the original beat for this. Puff he listened to it and then he went and made it on his own.
Wow. The man got no credit.
I know. It's just like, damn, bro. Like, give him some credit.
He literally made the beat to one of the best hip hop songs ever, and he didn't get no credit. I would be cheesed.
Right. And then we'll get into Everyday Struggle.
For me, this is actually my favorite song on the album.
Really?
Everyday Struggle. It's just like, because I can relate to it so much. You know what I mean? Living every day like a hustle, you know what I mean?
Another drug to juggle. Another day, another struggle.
Another day, another struggle, right? And then the line where he's talking about I'm a dealer, but like I wish I wasn't. I wish I wasn't making a living so devilish. Like that to me is it's like a hard pill to swallow, right? It's like, damn, it's like that's just the situation of life, that's just what it is back then.
Right.
Another day, another struggle. Yeah.
And I think he goes really in depth into his drug dealing past.
Exactly, yeah.
This was probably the most in depth that he went to as far as living that life.
Yeah.
But like you said, he doesn't want to be living that life.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's why.
And I like the ominous background music. You know what I mean? Like the beat in the background is just so ominous. It's like I can almost see him like reciting this song in some rainy day, in Brooklyn, like. Another day, another hustle.
Where he's like out on the corner and be like, fuck, bro, I really don't want to do this.
He's in a block somewhere and he's like, fuck, you know, like.
Yeah, and one thing that I have to say about this track is it doesn't glamorize, like it's not this glamorized D-boy lifestyle that Jay-Z does. Where Jay-Z's like, yo, I'm a D-boy and I'm living my life. And
see, but I feel like that's not like, if you were that life, you know, there's nothing like doing something, if you've ever done something shameful for money, you almost feel dirty for taking that money. You know what I mean?
Dog, you know and I know we've been in that situation.
Like, it's kind of like working a shitty job and then getting your paycheck and you're just like, I'm gonna take that paycheck, but it wasn't worth it. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know.
And then we get into Me and My Bitch.
I like
Me and My Bitch. Me and My Bitch. Not one of my favorite tracks, but
it's not one of my favorite, but I definitely won't skip it.
And one of the things that I have to point out, it's these opening lines that he brings up. Oh my God. I wrote this down. When I met you, I admit my first thoughts were the trick. You look so good, I'd suck on your daddy's dick.
Pause. First time I heard that, I was like, what did you say? Go back to it. I'm like, no, he definitely said that. Pause. It's like a giant pause.
Huge pause. It's like
I don't know what he was trying to go for there, but it's a huge pause moment.
Bro, neither do I. I have no idea why he thought this was a good idea.
Maybe he just wanted to complete the rhyme. I don't know. It's just
like shit. What do I write after this? Okay, sucker, trick, dick. Okay, let's put it in there. Yeah, it's just wild.
But
and honestly, like even the
ending, he's not bad when he wants to be funny though. He's not bad when he wants to be funny. And I think you need a balance to be a well versed artist. You gotta have that balance.
Agreed. And I think like even like his woman dies in the track.
Right.
And I think it just shows the mentality that he's in. Everyone's dying around him.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, like there's just no hope for him.
Yeah.
So we get into Big Papa.
Classic.
Yeah, very classic. That's one of the most classic Biggie songs out there. It's like probably is my favorite one.
Agreed. And the storytelling, like man, it's just on another level. From the beginning to end, seducing this girl in the club, like
right.
Super well done. And obviously the Between the Sheets sample by the Isley Brothers, one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Super dope. And then we get into Respect.
I have like a lot of mixed emotions about Respect. Cause I like the female artist on that song. Like I like her attitude, but I don't know. Definitely not one of my favorite songs in the album, but it's not bad.
Damn, bro, I don't know. That was one of my favorite.
Yeah,
yes.
It's hard.
The only reason
it's definitely hard, but I don't know. Like, does it compare to like Big Papa or Everyday Struggles to me?
No, but
I can definitely appreciate it though.
I think the thing that holds this track back is the skit at the end.
Yeah,
Where obviously she's giving him head, and it's just like I don't want to hear that again. The sex skits, but
the sound quality on that skit at the end is like,
so wrong.
I'm like, God damn! I'm like, there's no need.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, and honestly, I do think that it's one of the best tracks on the album. I have to disagree with you on that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this track. The beat is hard. The hard guitar sample in the back and the hard drums that are coming in.
But that's the thing about his music. It's like you can gravitate to certain themes more than other people, right? Like for me, like Everyday Struggle was just like, you know, maybe not the best song in the album, but it was something that I really gravitated to.
Right.
Like that's a song that like I fuck with heavy, right?
Word. And then 15, Friend of Mine, not one of my favorite tracks.
No, it's not bad though. It's not bad.
Not one of the more memorable tracks.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And then we get into 16, Unbelievable.
I'm having a hard time thinking
Unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
With the Primo beat.
Yeah,
Bro, this is classic.
Alright, my bad, it's early.
Nah, man, this is classic. Yeah. One of the best tracks on the album.
Yeah.
Battle Bars by Biggie, a Primo beat with the samples. Like, super dope.
Definitely one of the best songs.
It's a classic Primo beat, the way he chops up the sample.
It's one of those songs where you don't have to be listening to the album to just, you know, it's one of those songs that can stand on its own, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It does stick out from the rest of the album. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So number 17, Suicidal Thoughts. What do you think about it?
Suicidal Thoughts is like it's a good track. It's I like the pace, like the slow pace, and then it kind of like goes by faster, right? Like like the more Biggie gets into his head, like it's almost he's implying like more consequences, right? Like at first he's just kind of like talking like some shit, and then he's like, no, I'm really gonna kill myself or whatever.
Right.
So I think it's definitely one of those songs that's like artistic in nature, right? It's like you kind of can see the decline throughout the song. Yeah.
Okay, word. And I mean, I remember in high school people would be reciting this.
Word. That's kind of weird, man. But word.
When you recite the lyrics, it sounds really like, okay, is that kid all right? You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Exactly, and that's the thing, right? A lot of the times people can kind of relate to this message because
Right.
I feel like maybe most of us, I can't speak for everybody, but
Right.
maybe some of us have gone through situations where we feel like just ending it.
Right. And I feel like, you know, even if you haven't, you've probably dealt with a friend that's been depressed or, you know, been down on his luck or whatever, right? You can relate to both points of view.
Because what Biggie is doing, he's reaching out, right? He's at a very vulnerable point, and
Yeah.
he's reaching out, you know. So this song really shows his vulnerability, and like, I think that's the real. Well, speaking of real, that's him being as real as he can get, right?
The one thing that I do have to say, and I know I brought this point up earlier, but it's the fact that he puts it on an album,
Right.
and he's selling it.
It's almost like he's trying to reach out.
Do you think he's reaching out, or is it like? Because I think there's a degree of promoting it too. Like I said, we brought this up earlier.
Right.
Where is he promoting this kind of message? Because think about it. If you're somebody who's going through suicidal thoughts, and then you hear Biggie talk about, I just want to end it, and he ends up killing himself. Is that going to really? Is that going to help you in coping, or is that going to influence you to really want to go take your life?
You know, that's a weird question. It all just depends how you take in the song. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
Do you take in the song and do you agree with what he's saying that like, yeah, like, you know, he was messed up his entire life. It would just be better for everybody, right? If he just kills himself, right? Or do you kind of like, you know, you kind of hear the song and then you're like, okay, well, this is pretty messed up. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go down that path. You know, it's just, I think it's just the way you kind of digest the song.
Right. Well, for example, when you hear that, what do you think?
When I hear suicidal thoughts, like, I can understand it, but at the same time, it doesn't inspire me to, like, you know what I mean, go down that path. You know what I mean? But I can definitely understand what he's talking about and where he's going and why he's going, right? So that's just me. I don't know. Some people are more sensitive to that, right? Like
a bit of empathy towards it.
Right. Empathy would be the right word. Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, no, I don't think his whole message is that we should go have these suicidal thoughts and act on them. I think he's just trying to show us how dark things can get, you know, when you reach out to like your homeboy about, you know, shit's tough, you know, shit's rough. And that's pretty much what it is, really. It's just his story, and, you know, you get highs like Juicy, and then lows like, you know, suicidal thoughts, right? So it's just the contrast of the two, how you can reach highs, you can reach lows, and, you know, don't we all? Right.
I agree. It's not necessarily one of my favorite tracks. I'm gonna be honest.
It's catchy though.
Well, I know the first couple lines. Like,
the first couple lines.
Fuck it, I want to go to hell. I always like when I hear that. Something clicks in my head.
Right.
But it's not one of my favorite tracks. Just looking at it because, first of all, you hear Diddy's ad libs all across the track. His ad-libs almost sound like they're overpowering the track. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Yeah.
I actually really liked it though. I thought it was very interesting to add like a story right in a song. You know, right? Like to add like a sketchy, like really difficult situation right in a song. Like that's what I love about Biggie. You know, just like give me the loot, right? It's like, I just think it's incredible that like you have these ad-libs. It just makes it very unique and interesting. It's not just a song that you can, you know, bump to, but it's like a story that you can really feel and take in. So I really like it once in a while.
I don't mind the concept. Like, I guess what you're kind of pointing to is the concept of it.
Yeah.
Like,
the concept's a good idea.
It's a really good idea. It's just the execution of it.
The execution,
right?
Yeah.
Because the ad-libs almost sound like they're overpowering Biggie's vocals.
So, like, I think the ad-libs for Suicidal Thoughts don't necessarily, like, add anything. You know what I mean? Suicidal Thoughts, you just kind of... Suicidal Thoughts, you just kind of need the lyrics. Like, you don't even need a beat. Like you just need like the tempo and the lyrics, because that's all you're listening to. You're not gonna bump suicidal thoughts when while you're driving or you're at the gym. Like you're just not gonna do that, right? Like,
All right.
It's one of those songs where you just need the lyrics, like in the interaction. Yeah.
All right. And then we get into 18. Who shot you?
This is a banger.
This is a banger.
This is a banger.
Yeah. This shit. I mean, the way it opens up. Who shot you? Separate the weak from the obsolete.
It opens up like super aggressive, like somebody kicking in the door, right? Like, yeah, it opens up nice.
When I was in high school, a lot of people said it was about Tupac. Isn't that funny?
Right. Well, that's what, honestly, that's what a lot of people took the track to be at the time, apparently.
Right.
Just from what I understand. And I was watching the Tupac I guess it was a documentary biopic.
Right.
All Eyes on Me.
Right.
And it was showing when he listened to Who Shot Ya.
Right.
And he was super pissed.
And he was kind of offended. He kind of felt it was about him. I feel like Who Shot Ya was it just applied to so many things. You know what I mean? Like, it applied. You know what I mean? It could also be like Biggie kind of taking shots at Pac's situation, but it could be Biggie talking about how that's gonna happen to him. You know what I mean? Like later down the road. That's the way I kind of understood it. It's just like that's just the.
It's nice to have an indirect message, right? Because with an indirect message of like who it's specified towards, it kind of makes you, mess around with the idea that it could be like your, someone in your personal life, right? Guy down the street or something that got into some rough shit. Like I had a friend, rest in peace, but he got shot earlier today. But it could also
really
did I say earlier today?
Yeah, I was like,
sorry,
what?
That just came out. I didn't mean earlier today. I meant earlier before, not earlier today. That just came out earlier before. Like it's probably a few weeks ago. Oh my goodness!
Damn.
I was like, why? When did this happen? Early in the morning?
No. Earlier before like a month ago. Why did I say today?
Right.
Okay,
all good.
Just to mess up.
Yeah.
It's all good.
But anyway, so it could be about that, something personal, or it could be like something coincidental, like a big celebrity that got shot or something.
Right.
So it's like it's up to you to really decide. That's the important thing about music, is that it can strike something personal to you.
Because Biggie never name drops Pac in the song at all. He doesn't, he doesn't even hint at that, right? But it's just the timing is coincidental, right?
Right.
So it makes you think.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I'll say is, if this was directed towards Pac, damn it, say names. Because I want you to say names.
Right.
Like, if you're going at somebody,
you gotta
go
say
at
the name.
them. Go at them. I don't because nowadays everybody does subliminal disses.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I don't like that. I like when I'm saying your name, like Tupac hit him up.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Fuck your bitch, you fat motherfucker.
Yeah.
He literally calls them all out, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, Bad Boy, some Marquez. You know what I mean? Like
it's definitely there's like that low key dissing. You know what I mean? It's hard to follow that, honestly. Like, you don't. It's not like a battle rap where it's like this back and forth, right? It's just like, like, oh, is that directed towards him? Maybe not, right?
Maybe he gets a kick out of that. Maybe he gets a kick out of us trying to figure it out, because deep down it's just him that knows it. Right?
Word. That's a good point. Yeah, Jay-Z does that a lot too. He does subliminals. Drake does subliminals all the time.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah.
but I can respect it. I can respect because I get it. Sometimes
coming
you don't
from
want to.
Somebody like Biggie, who his writing is very like, it's always with like a purpose. Like, it's always got like some other meaning. I could see it. Yeah. Him like he's trying to like get people to see if they can figure it out. Right.
And the title of the song is a question, right?
Right. It is a question.
Right. It is a question. Yeah. I guess. Open it up. And then we have the last track, Just Playing Dreams, the bonus track.
I thought it was alright.
Sorry, it's a cool little ending.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to wrap up the album, I guess.
Not gonna lie, but it's very forgettable.
It is very forgettable, yeah.
True.
Well, compared to the other songs, right, on the album, yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll get into just overall thoughts on the album. What do you guys think overall?
See, like, my favorite Biggie album is Life After Death. That album for me just has the most consistency. And like I always go back. I always find myself going back to that album some way or another, right? But I think this is probably the second best Biggie album, in my opinion.
Behind Life After Death?
Yeah.
Okay,
and
I can
respect
respect that.
That's my preference, right? Like, you can argue otherwise, but
You said Life After Death is like consistent, right? Like,
Yeah.
I feel you because this album is very inconsistent in some regards, right?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, it's like you have a song like Juicy. I think I was saying earlier, it's a very positive, upbeat song. Then you go to like these suicidal thoughts, you know.
But there's a lot in between
yeah,
that.
Yeah,
There's a lot in
there's a
between
lot
that.
of there's a lot of swing, right? Like this.
I feel like this album is more of his story, so he's showing the good and the bad.
Right.
So it's supposed to be inconsistent. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what I find, and you know, sometimes inconsistency is exactly what we need.
Right, a bit of like a walking contradiction.
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, life is very complex. You know, it's not black and white, and I think that's exactly what Biggie was trying to tell us.
Right.
In this album.
Word. I mean, for me, I think this album is classic for many reasons.
I think it's a classic too.
Mm-hmm.
We can all agree that this is a classic.
Instant classic, yeah.
Now, I think one of the biggest reasons why it's a classic is because it helped usher in what we know is the hardcore gangster rap of the East Coast around that time.
Yeah.
Because around that time was coming out, Wu-Tang was coming out,
Right.
Mobb Deep was coming out, a lot of Nas's other work was coming out. There was a lot more drug focused, a lot more street focused than his first album. So this helped usher in an era around that time, and we have to respect that.
Right.
Because a lot of some of the albums that we name are classics came from this album's drop.
Yeah, that inspiration. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and then the other thing I want to say is we can debate the effects of. I always bring this up, but we can debate the effects of the album and its effect on the larger hip hop community as far as its consciousness and what kind of effects this has on the youth and what effect it had at the time.
See, the thing with hip hop is such a big genre of music, you know what I mean? That it's like, you know, just because like, you know, Biggie's big, and he influenced a lot of people, but like, you know, you can be listening to, let's say you're a West Coast kind of guy, you know what I mean? Maybe, you know what I mean? You don't listen to any Biggie Smalls, you know what I mean? So it's like, it doesn't really affect you as much, you know what I mean? It depends on who you listen to, right?
Right, the region where you're from,
and what your taste is, right? Like some people just don't like the boom bap sound, right? Some people just like trap beats, right?
Right, or some people just like the West Coast funk sound.
Exactly, right?
But I feel like a lot of people ended up relating to this album.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Because it's so grim, so raw, so uncut.
It's definitely appreciated in the community, the album. Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, we would like to hope so. I think in the hip-hop community, yes.
Yeah.
They still play this at clubs, you know what I mean?
Right. Anything outside of the hip-hop
especially like
community.
Throwback nights, yeah.
But anything outside of the hip-hop community, I don't think, at this point, I don't think they give a fuck about him.
I'm
gonna be honest.
I agree, because like, you know, Biggie's popular, but he's not like the culture icon he once was, you know, same with Tupac, right? Like,
yeah, I agree with you. I think it's kind of like, you look at, okay, if we're going to compare this to religion, it's like everyone kind of acknowledges, okay, there's God. You know, some people do. It's kind of like Biggie, like he's perceived as somewhat of a rap god in a sense where like people look up to him, people like, okay, yeah, you know, shout out to him, you know, he's like, he's the center of it all, but they don't really give a shit, I don't think, as much. Right. You know, they pitch their 2 cents. They're like, oh yeah, everyone respects Biggie, you gotta give him respect. Okay, now that's out of the way. Let's talk about modern rappers.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I think there's still people today, and the reason I say that is because I'm one of them, who do listen to this music and still get something out of it.
Right.
And I think all of us here,
yeah.
Since we're here for one reason or the other, but the one thing that's bringing us together is Biggie's Ready to Die.
Right, is the music, right? It's the sound, yeah.
So I think it's still affecting people today those who search for it.
Exactly.
Those who are really like, okay, I'm into hip hop. I want to know what is this thing, right?
And then for like the younger listeners, right? Like, if you don't know who Biggie Smalls is, like, do yourself a favor and just take some time and educate yourself. Like, there's nothing wrong with going back to, you know, music from previous generation. You might like it, you might not like it, right? But if you don't like it, that's okay. At least you gave it like a fair chance, you know. And the same thing with old hip hop heads, right? They're like, oh, there's no good music coming out. Like, that's not really true, right? There's like a lot of good music coming out. You just gotta look for it, right? You know.
And I think one thing that will stand the test of time is Biggie's technical skill.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, his finesse with words and rhyming. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I think that's one thing that, I mean, obviously as things get complex and
and people figure out new techniques and things like that.
then eventually it might sound dated. I'm sure in like 20 years this is gonna sound ancient.
Super ancient. Yeah.
All right, but I think still for the time, his techniques.
Yeah.
A lot of people today are taking influence from it.
Oh, for sure, like 100%. You know, Eminem,
Eminem,
right? Like, you know, J. Cole, right? And last song he dropped, That Middle Child, he talks about, you know, he studied the legends, he copied their style.
Exactly.
Right? He's the greatest right now, yeah. So, like, it definitely is, right? In any field, you gotta... Most people who are dedicated about their field usually go back and see what the greats
did
and
absolutely.
That, yeah. So, yeah.
And I feel like if more people appreciated that, like, okay, these guys who are at the top, they did some studying.
Right.
And once you go back, then you realize, oh, that's where this came from.
Right.
Or, oh, that's where that came from.
It makes you appreciate the music a lot more when you're more educated about it. You know?
Right. Facts. And then the last thing I want to bring up is just the memories I have with this. The memories I have with this, I can't take away. Like me growing up, I did grow up listening to this.
Right.
And quoting this and going through it and studying the lyrics.
Yeah.
So those memories will always stay with me, and I hope people in future generations, even today, can still have those memories too.
Yeah.
Or they can create new memories with Biggie.
Yeah.
So.
Same. To be honest, like it's definitely has a place in the childhood for sure. Yeah.
If we were to give this a rating out of 10, what would you guys give it?
Give it. That's a tough question. Without being like super like generous because like it's perfect because it's Biggie, and being like also critical at the same time, probably like a 9 or an 8.5 out of 10. Right.
See, for me, it's kind of like girls. It's like you can't just throw 9 or 10s just like that, right? You know, you gotta like reserve
like
that
a 10, like come on, a 10's like pretty ridiculous.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You gotta reserve that for like once in a blue moon. But you know, a part of me feels like this is that one time where I should give it high praise, like higher praise than I would normally. Because you know, I've told you about this, that like I'm one of those 90s nostalgic heads, if that's even the right word for it. In a sense, what I mean is that I'm not too crazy about most modern rap. So for me, I hold this album especially to high esteem. Like, definitely give it a 9.5 or 9.
Word. I'm feeling like a 8.5 or a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I think it just depends. Like, it also depends on like the time. Like, if you were asking somebody from like the 90s, what would you give this album? They'd probably like, it's a 10.
Well, yeah, a lot of people. Well, you know, I was looking back at some of the ratings that they gave it at the time.
Yeah.
Like AllMusic and and who else was there? The Source.
The Source. Yeah.
The Source gave it I think a 4 stars out of 5 or a 4.5 out of 5.
Right.
And then, but later they did another review and they gave it a 5 out of 5.
See, I don't like that. You know what I mean? I don't like that because I feel like everybody. It's like with anything, like you have people who are like really big fans, and anything that person drops is automatically like perfect to them. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's good, but you gotta be critical as well, right?
You're always gonna get the dick writers, right?
So maybe it ages like wine. You know what I mean? It just gets better with age. I think that's.
I think this is one of those albums.
It is.
Yeah,
that's a fair point. Yeah, that's true.
Word. So I guess we'll wrap it up. We are getting close to like an hour and a half.
There you go. That's a lot of content.
Yes.
Nice.
And yeah, obviously you guys are going to see at the beginning some of the interviews that we did on the street. Me and Joe out on the streets asking people what they thought about Biggie's Ready to Die. Some interesting reactions, some interesting comments that we got out of it. So I hope you guys enjoy it. It's still on sound.
Joe Coughlin.
Johnson.
Out of here.
Peace.
Peace.